This is Panzer Dragoon Remake. This is on Xbox Series X, but instead of having its own optimizations, it inherits a Xbox One X enhancement, 4K resolution, HDR support. It is quite, I guess, smooth and pretty good looking because this is a new remade version of the original Panzer Dragoon game. It's true to the original with improved graphics and improved controls. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. So the gist of it is you're on a far lone planet. You encounter two dragons awakened from ancient times, armed with a deadly gun from the past. And with the guidance of your armored blue dragon, you must fulfill your destiny and keep the prototype dragon from reaching the tower. Or die trying. Yeah. So this is interesting. It's definitely a unique title. I've always heard so much about this over the years. Oh, and there's a photo mode, so I'm just kind of showing that now. It was a cool option to have if you want to take photos and stuff, because the game does look actually pretty cool. That aside, this is, I don't know, like, you hear so much about it like it's some sort of divine thing. At least I do from a number of the older press people I talked to, and I just kind of played it and I'm like, it's okay. But yeah, so it's sort of a fairly quick game. There's 7 levels to it, and then I guess you could kind of go back and redo things with different challenges. It marks how good of a shooter you are. I didn't have any trouble, well, with the lock-on you get here. Getting all of the achievements that were for hitting targets. I think of 70% accuracy, because you just kind of lock on. I mean, you can shoot yourself. There's even a mode where it's more like a classic shooting, but yeah, it just kind of almost plays itself, I guess. You just sort of hold it and then look around the screen. Although it's weird, because when you do the hold, it seems to shoot first, and then you're able to hold down and actually hit stuff. I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, there's a bit of a story. It wasn't necessarily the most cohesive sort of thing, and then it just kind of ends abruptly too. It was strange. There is like a lives system as well, and when you start levels, if you're damaged the previous level, you seem to be damaged in the next level, to the point where it was like sometimes I just kind of killed off my character. I guess I think I did that once or twice, because, you know, you just didn't have the health to do the next level. But it's an on-rails, dragon-based shooting game where you're able to look around 360 degrees and, you know, battle from all sides. I found it a little bit awkward to shoot from any perspective other than, like, straight ahead. It was just the camera angle seemed to be a little bit hard to really lock on, or, well, use functionally with the lock on. Everything was just a bit tiring, because it was like I was getting hit by stuff and I was like, I can't really get this thing from the other angles. It looks cool, you know, the dimensions of being able to shoot 360 degrees is kind of fascinating. Well, I don't know if it's really 360. You're kind of like cut off at the corners because you just get this straight angle. But you get the gist of what I'm saying, is you can switch side to side, back to back, as you've probably been seeing here. And we're just showing off 2 of the earlier levels, one after another. There shouldn't be anything spoilerish, I don't think. You're just kind of going through the levels, blasting stuff. And there's always like a boss at the end. You take out the boss, you go on to the next level. A little bit of a cinematic plays. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's definitely a neat game. I think this is more for nostalgia, as opposed to being something that I think would really capture new players, because I wasn't really sold on the whole formula. Like, it's a cool game, like, it's well done, it's pretty great, it's fun, but it's just sort of a really casual on-rails shooter that I feel like almost played itself. Like, I didn't really have any difficulty with it outside of basically, you know, the health being depleted when you start a new level. That was an issue. But yeah, I guess if you were to play some of the harder modes on it, that might be quite difficult, I suppose. But yeah, just regularly playing it was pretty easy going. Oh yeah, this is a switch to another level here where it's a little bit more, I don't know if action-packed is the word for it, but it's more like destroying lots of different things on this one. Anyways, it's a very simple game. It's kind of straight to the point. You go through it and it's done. You know, you're fighting the prototype dragon, there's evil creatures and monsters and mechanical type things that you're battling along, and each level has a completely different terrain. I did like the visuals. At the same time, for, you know, a remake, you would think that maybe they would be able to push it further, especially with the tech we have today. The switch over to a new generation, I don't feel that they're really taking advantage of what this could look like. Like, it's still actually quite nice. Like, the dragon does look really cool. The shots you fire off are kind of cool. I'm assuming from what I've seen of the original that this captures that same structure and look and feeling. So I think that's important when you're doing a remake. At the same time, I really felt that they could have maybe, I don't know, pushed the visuals even further for like more of a realistic look. But you know, it does look really good. It definitely has a unique art style, I want to say. I do appreciate that. I like the style of the backdrops. Everything kind of has a nice like sense of depth to it and scale. So I think it's interesting. I don't know. It's weird. I would maybe play something new based on this concept. I remember when the Xbox One actually first came out, there was something that was similar to this concept that I recall, but you don't see too many of these on-rail kind of flying shooting games these days. I remember them being more of the rage back, you know, in the earlier days of gaming. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's not too complex. It's pretty easy going. The levels are very short. You finish the game pretty fast. I sat there in a nice, easy going, casual setting. I was like, oh, it's done. Okay. And then I moved on from it. I'm like, okay, cool. So now we kind of showcase it off because, yeah, it's interesting to present because it's a very different sort of game, I think, is the key element to this one. It's definitely something a little bit more unique. And to go back to what I was saying, you know, prior, I think this is more of a nostalgia trip for some and maybe introducing it to new players, but I don't think that this style of play here is really going to necessarily grasp a lot of people in today's time. At least I don't think so, because I'm still not fully on board with the title. It's cool, but you know, also I think maybe people might have talked it up to me a bit too much over the years, or the things I've read about it were a bit too high for my expectations. It was a good, easy play, very simple, kind of went through it, had a good time battling some of the bosses. So I was like, okay, cool. And now I'm sort of just done with it. I did unlock a cool little extra thing, but I think that's just a code people can use in general that was there from the original. And that gives you like access to some more, I guess you could say, hardcore type options, you know, if you want more difficulty. Again, they have all these settings and choices and adjustments you can make. So that's Panzer Dragoon Remake. It was kind of cool to take a look at this piece of gaming history, at least with this remade version of it, and see it in action. And yeah, dragons and stuff. Cool.